All right, you mob, welcome back to the show. Yeah, just for you, Frenchie. So it's been a few days. For the first time, you know what? This was a week of fucking firsts, honestly. We had our first episode where I was actually too drunk to post it, and we now have our first episode that I feel is a little bit too much to post. I've listened to it a few times, and I just think, you know what? This one is either going to cause a lot of problems with April because it's all about her, shock horror. And you know what? I was very drunk, and it's very much a deep dive into my current feelings for her, and that is not something I really. Well, obviously, it is something I want to share because I sat down and fucking recorded it, but you know, I just don't want to cause problems with her. Despite the fact that I've recorded like 2-3 fucking episodes all about her for the most part, so maybe I'm full of shit. But before we go any further, we have an exciting new addition to the podcast. I know I've been talking about it for like 4 episodes now, but let's roll the intro. And how do we feel about that? I'm so stoked about it. Finally having it. I don't know about the length. I have been looking at other podcasts today and kind of on and off just to see how long, like ones with intros, because a lot of the ones I listen to just don't have intros. They start like mine and just fucking, hey fuckers, how you doing? But the consensus is somewhere between 15 and 30 seconds, and there is a 15-second version of that as well. And you know what? Hopefully I don't get sick of it, because that was that 4-minute song that they split up for me into a bunch of different lengths and sections and shit was fucking $52. So royalty-free music for all. And the Frenchman, I can feel you judging me for spending $52 on a song. Okay, yeah. So, here we go. Mute time, boys and girls. So, yes, it's a week of firsts. 2 episodes I just couldn't post. So we have 2 for the vault if I ever feel like I'm just straight up hurting for content. I'll just say, you know what? Fuck it. Here's me, especially what should have been 37, which is what this one will be. The one that should have been 37, it's like 50 minutes of me basically just openly weeping about April. So, listen to that Darth Vader wheeze. Fucking mute again here. So the Frenchman's wife will have heard it. Actually, I sent it to her last night when I was drunk. But yeah, not a great look, not a great vibe. I don't know, guys. Like, obviously, we're gonna talk about April in this one too. So this is your sign, Frenchman, to fucking turn this one off if you're tired of it, because I know you are. You told me last night, you fucker. And if things sound just a wee bit different, and they probably will, this show is being recorded on a brand new mic because I just can't stop. I have a spending addiction. We went out on Friday and got the MV7X, like I was talking about. I did restrain myself and not buy the SM7B as badly as I wanted to. But then, you know what? I might as well have with how much I spent on other sound shit for the week. So the MV7X is now being held up by the PSA 1 Plus Rode boom arm. I tried to mount this fucking mic on my typical boom arm, and I just about fucking launched the arm into the wall. I was so fucking mad, and finally had enough and just said, you know what? We're just going to go buy it. It is what it is. I'll take the L, and I want it anyway, so you might as well. So now this has kind of turned into a little bit of a project with the podcast table because I have all this stuff now that I need to put on the podcast table, and I've just been putting it off because like I'm really only home for like a day and a half on the weekends, and like, do I want to waste a bunch of time doing home construction projects? And the answer is fuck no. So I have these cable organizers I bought that get mounted on the bottom of the desk, and then I was going to drill a hole in the middle and kind of route all the cables that way, because like right now the table's a fucking mess. There's just XLR cables and power cables and shit fucking everywhere. So, and I want to mount a power strip on the bottom of the desk so that all the power cables that get routed through this hole can all be out of sight, out of mind, and just plugged in underneath. And then this boom arm actually comes with a permanent mount for it as well. Fuck, this thing really doesn't reject plosives, eh? That's one of the many Amazon packages I have coming still, is a new windscreen for this thing, because apparently the trick for the MV7X is to put an SM7B windscreen on it, and it really kicks a lot of the plosives in the dick. So, yes, this boom arm does come with like a permanent mount, and you have to drill a hole in your desk. And I left my drill and all that shit out of town, so I will be doing that actually. And we've ordered another XLR cable just for the permanent mount, so I'm not unclipping and reclipping this all the time when I'm tearing the setup down to go traveling. I can just leave a cable in the boom arm and everything just kind of mounted to the desk, and then when I get home, it's just a matter of bleep, 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 and everything's back put together. So I'm trying to make this as like pseudo portable and as pseudo plug and play as I can, because the out of town job is not going to last forever, right? Like, I'm pretty sure I'll be back in town for January permanently. The month, not the person. I have not talked to her in September, October, November, just 4 months now. Yeah. So right now I'm spending all this money trying to make the podcast setup like as portable as possible. And then I'm not going to be needing a portable podcast setup for anything really. But you know what? The Frenchman did tell me last night that now he does want to come on and he does want to be a guest. And I was like, I fucking knew you would. I knew it. I fucking knew you would want to. So I guess it's a good thing that by the time that we'll be done in this at the out of town job, the podcast will be like so supremely portable. Like this thing really breaks down. But like by the time I'm done, it's not as small as I would like it to be. It'll break down into like 3 hard cases and maybe a backpack. But very, very cool that I can just kind of you know what, I could go even smaller than that if I didn't want to take the Rodecaster. If I just took the Focusrite and the iPad and a couple mics, like, yeah, the shit's real fucking portable then, but a lot more cables, a lot more management. So mute again, guys. I swear I haven't coughed all night, and then here we go. I sit down and record and it's a fucking mess. So what was the last thing you guys heard? I can't remember. There's a lot of pressure now, knowing how many people listen, knowing the amount of people I know in real life that listen to this. Now I feel like there's some pressure to like do a better job than I usually would. 36. Yeah, so I that was another one. Let's get drunk and talk about April, which is the whole show if you ask the Frenchman. So yeah, I'm pretty sure. No, that might have been in the Forbidden episode. I don't know. Anyway, so my company's Christmas party was last night, and it was a good time. Yeah, you know, always is with an open bar. And like the one before last year's was less of a good time. I really didn't want to be there, and like I was still kind of cranky towards the company for some things, and there was some perceived slights that I felt I had received and I was not impressed by. So I left that one pretty angry. But last night was a lot of fun. And it's crazy how, and this is actually, I have some notes for this. There's no script for this episode, obviously. You can probably tell. I just did some bullet points, just shit I've been thinking about all day and since I got home last night that I just kind of wanted to touch on. But so we'll come back to this. But it's kind of crazy how much a lot of this stuff I can enjoy a little bit more now that January's not involved. and we'll come back around to that in a bit. But the Christmas party recap. Yeah, it was good. Sorry, brain fart. It was a good time. And like the Frenchman had told me this week that he accidentally doxed me to Scotty, and that Scotty listened to the podcast, which like on the one hand, I don't really care because I posted it on Instagram and Snapchat, and like, well, there you go. If you follow me there, then you know the podcast. So that's like the Riz Lord and his uncle, and a lot of people I know that, which whatever. But on the other hand, I'm like, ooh, do I want Scotty listening to the podcast and knowing all these things about me? But I don't really care because it's nothing I wouldn't tell him if he didn't ask. And sometimes if he didn't ask, I would just trauma dump on him anyway because I do that with everyone at work. Like, how's your weekend? I'm like, get ready. So, yes. And then it turns out the Frenchman's wife is actually quite the little fan too. I figured she just listened to a couple and then decided, this isn't for me just because I curse so much and I'm just a disgusting little pig person and making bad life choices, and she doesn't agree with all of them. But it turns out she does listen a lot, so that's very cool. And Scotty said he's cranked through like something like 15 episodes or something in the last week or two. So very, very interesting. And like everyone I kind of send this shit to, the two most common like reactions I get back from people is like, it's really funny and you have a very good voice for a podcast, which the second one, like I kind of knew because I definitely don't have a face for like TV or video or whatever. But listening back to it, I'm like, I sound pretty good. And even back in the OG days with like the NT-USB 1 or NT-USB Mini, which picked up every fucking thing in the room from my voice to a fly's fart across the room in the kitchen. Shout out to episode 10, which I had to listen to today with special guest, The Dryer, who was a paid actor. That is the most common compliment or comment I get about the podcast is like, I really have a voice for it. And well, that's good to know. And I kind of knew that already, but it's nice to hear a little fucking validation, pump the old ego up. But the fun people telling me that the podcast is funny makes me laugh because I'm like, I don't know that I'm trying to like intentionally be funny when I do these. I'm just kind of like talking about my shit, like trauma and relationships and dating and like how fucked up I am about some of this stuff. And like, so yeah, there's funny ones where I get drunk and I talk about work and whatever, but like a lot of it's just like real, I feel like kind of serious working through shit. And I'm like, is it funny because I'm being unintentionally funny, or is it funny because my life is funny? And I just don't see it because I'm living it. And are you guys laughing at me? But I don't care either way. Fucking laugh at me or with me. It doesn't matter as long as you're laughing. So yes, the two most unlikely fans of the show, Scotty and the Frenchman's wife. Just very, very interesting. It's not something I ever thought, either of them would really be into, just because, like I said, like I am such like a foul-mouthed little degenerate, and the Frenchman's wife very much disagrees with, I think, those aspects of my life. And then Scotty and I, we get along fine. I've known him for fucking 10 years at this point. We get along just fine at work and stuff, but like very, very different stages in our lives and personalities and interests and hobbies and stuff. So for him to take time out of his schedule, well, he does it at work though. So I guess he would have been working anyway, but just for him to listen to it is kind of cool because I'm like, we're pretty different, Scotty. So I'm glad you think it's interesting. So hello to the Frenchman's wife and Scotty and the Frenchman. It's very cool to me that you guys listen. And this is something I was kind of thinking about actually on another, I think I mentioned this in one episode. I can't fucking remember anymore, but, I had noticed that I was starting to like tailor what I was saying on the show to not prompt a reaction from certain people who I know listen to the show. And that's not how I want to do things, obviously. Like, it's my show. I want to say whatever the fuck I want. And, you all have, and if it's something that's going to prompt a negative reaction from anybody, well, you all have the choice to turn it off. I'm not making you listen to this shit. So it's very interesting. Like, it's one thing hypothetically to like record this and put it out and tell people about it and then post it on Instagram and Snapchat and like, there you go, here's a podcast, general release, like everybody's welcome, blah, blah, blah. It's one thing to like hypothetically do that and know that it's out in the world and like people I know listen to it. And it's another thing to walk up to a bar and say hi to the Frenchman and his wife and Scotty and have the Frenchman's wife and Scotty go like, oh, I fucking love the podcast. Like, oh my God. It's very, very different when it's like real and it's someone you really, really know telling you to your face that they like it. Like, and that's a good thing, obviously. I don't think they're lying. Who knows? And the Frenchman too. I knew I would too, that fucker. I said it just to get him to text me. But he helpfully texted me and let me know that he did not need his wife's help to figure out how to download the podcast. He did it all by himself because he's a big boy. Big boy. So, yes, I figured I'd get a text about that, just saying, fuck you. I understand technology. Electricity isn't magic. Oh, man. And then, the Frenchman just being my buddy and like best friend, he had many more opinions about the show that he was not shy in sharing with me. He definitely was like, you say too much. You say and ah too much. And I was like, that's my thinking word, man. Like some people are like fucking, and mine is just And as much as I try and like cut them out, it's going to slip out because it's my fucking thinking word. It's when I'm like tripped up on a thought and I'm pausing for time, is what comes out. And I do for everything, honestly. When I go to like a drive-thru and shit too, I'm like, hi, can I get a, so, and I do it when I send voice notes to these girls actually too, because the voice notes app on iPhone, the widget in the fucking iMessage app is so terrible that I have to start every one and just go, and then let my finger off the record button to make sure it keeps recording, because it's notorious for telling me that it's recording and then actually not. But so to the Frenchman, that is my thinking word, and not everyone is as smart as you. And very sorry if my ums and ahs offend your genius brain. There was one for you right there. It's literally an episode called because that was all it was. I was drunk and I just couldn't fucking string a coherent sentence together. Fuck, this thing does pick up a lot of like breath and shit too. So yes, the Frenchman is wants me to have better diction, I think, and just speak more better. But that is why we started the podcast. And we've come a long way, I feel, from where we started. But, it's kind of a never-ending journey in learning to be a better orator and speak more betterer and express my thoughts. And, like, how he hates this excuse, but, like, how much of this is, like, the ADHD and the tism that just kind of makes me lose my train of thought mid-sentence, and I'm just sitting here fully having been in a sentence, and then my brain goes blank, and I'm just sitting here like, what was I talking about? And then how much of that is the liquor too? But see, and that's there you go. There's another thinking one. But what else did he say? Oh, I was telling him how like I haven't been in therapy for like a month now, just because of reasons we've discussed, right? Like the shitty Wi-Fi and blah blah blah. And this is very much like where the Frenchman and I differ as people. Oh my God, fucking. Oh, sorry, that one didn't want to be born. This is where like he and I differ as people, because I am very much more emotional and prone to emotional outbursts and like very what you see is what you get and blah, blah, blah. Whereas the Frenchman is like much more logical and calculating and analytical, and to a lot of people he comes off as like very cold and very rude, and I'm like, well, if you knew him you would know he's not like that at all. And honestly, it's shocking to me now that I'm not working with him every day how many apprentices have come up to me, apprentices and fucking journeymen have come up to me in the last month or two, or just found a way to tell me like, the Frenchman's so mean. He's so mean. He's so mean. He was so mean to me. I was so mean. And I'm like, well, Like, this is an ongoing argument he and I have been having for years now, where I'm like, bro, you cannot talk to people like this. You're going to get in trouble. Somebody's going to report you, and then you're going to get dragged into the office for sensitivity training. And he disagrees with me. So we just go back and forth about it. And then he tells me I'm too mean sometimes too. And I'm like, okay, well, fucking kettle meat pod. But anyway, so we're very different people. And that's part of the reason we work together so well, is because like he's stronger, I'm weak, and vice versa. And so we just kind of complement each other work wise. And I swear, this is just broship, but it sounds real gay. So I'm not, the only one that has a place in my gay little heart is my son, the Rizlord. But, so yeah, I had mentioned to the Frenchman, like, well, I haven't been in therapy, which, you listen to the podcast, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I think you're relying too much on therapy. I think you just need to blah, 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 like he does. And I was like, this is where we're different, man. Because like, he would never even consider therapy, I don't think. Well, like we've talked about it. And he's like, maybe I should be in therapy. I'm like, you probably fucking should. If you think and I've said it on the show, if you think you need to be in therapy, you'll fucking 100% do. But it's just not something he would ever, I don't think, consider that seriously, because he's very much like, I'm the master of my own ship. I'm the captain of my own fate. I will die by my own sword and blah, blah, blah. So like, if I think there's something wrong with me, I am the only one that can fix it, blah, blah, blah. So, and whereas I am like, I have to talk about this. My feelings are just getting the better of me and like running amok, and I'm driving myself crazy, and I just need to talk this out with somebody. So, and then again, that's a big reason why we started the podcast, is because like, ooh, like I am effed in the bee about a lot of this shit, and Jilly's only available once a week, but that doesn't stop the horrors from persisting. So it was a good plan B. But it's just very funny how like the Frenchman and I just differ so much, where he's like, you're too reliant on therapy. You just need to figure it out. And I'm like, that is how I figure it out, man. Like, what? And this is all very negative on him, and it's not. I saw him last night. I was just so happy to see him. But, and then we were talking to somebody else about the podcast or whatever, and I was like, I think I was saying to Scotty, I was like, I'm really glad you like got through it, because like I know the first 4 to 6 episodes are like a rough listen, right? Like figuring out mic technique with the road, and just figuring out the style and how I wanted to do it, and like hadn't found my voice yet, and I've never talked in the mic, so it's like real stilted and like very monotone, and not my normal like conversational tone of voice that it is now that I've done so many of these. And I was like, I tell people like it's like the first season of The Walking Dead, right? You just got to get through it, and then it kind of picks up from there. The Frenchman had said, now we're on season 5, where it's just the same story on repeat, and it's a fucking endless black hole. And he's talking about all this shit with April and stuff, which I'm like, you motherfucker. Like, sorry, I can't just get over her. But at the same time, like, I do understand where he's coming from, because like, as much as I like sitting down and talking about her and seeing how the way I'm feeling about her has kind of evolved, because I had to go back and listen to episode 10 today, because that was the one where I'd done a bunch of shit talking about Caillou, and I had to cut it all out and put in a little note to feature Caillou from current me, like, haha, suck shit, I beat you. But like, even going back to there, it's very interesting to see how it's evolved since then, and about how I feel about her, because it's very much like I've don't forget this, me, rose-colored glasses is where I was going with that. But just to the Frenchman's point, like, yeah, I'm sure it is exasperating that I'm still talking about her to the audience, because to your average outside listener, like, you hear all the negative things and stuff, and kind of how it went, and all the things that I've said about how she makes me feel and made me feel when we were together. And like, I probably sound like a fucking crazy person that I'm still kind of hung up on her, but I don't know. The Frenchman's wife was asking me this last night, because she's giving me grief for dating 20-year-olds. She's like, what is wrong with you? You need to date a woman your own age. And I said, I did date a woman my own age, and it was fucking boring. She had her life together. There was no chaos. It was all very normal, and she just wanted to take care of me and feed me and help me. And that's exhausting to me. I need to be the caretaker. I need to be the protector. So And then that's the other thing. I tell people about the new girl. I'm like, it's so fucking wild, man, because she's like, you're so smart. I'm like, I am not. You are just 20 and don't know any better. But, oh, there you go. Train of thought gone. Goodbye. Because we will come to the Frenchman's wife. I have her here in the notes. Christmas party recap. Scotty, the Frenchman's wife, the Frenchman. And then I had to do a sub note for just the Frenchman's opinions because I didn't want to forget any of this shit. But, so yeah, like, I'm sure it is confusing and also exasperating to your average listener to be like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Because I've listened to him talk about this bird for however many episodes, and like, it really does not sound like it was a healthy relationship, especially at the end. And it definitely wasn't. And we've talked about that. I'm pretty sure it was 13 or 16, where it was like the big like trauma dump about a lot of the negative things I wanted to say about her, and then the broken promise and blah 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 to the podcast. But I don't know. At this point, I'm just kind of, I know I'm looking at it through like rose-colored glasses at this point, where it's like all I can see is the good, and all I can remember is the good memories. And like I was thinking about this yesterday when I was at church volunteering for something. Like, I have memories of her and like all the really important places and typical places I go in my life, right? Like at the church and at my dad's house and all over the neighborhood my dad lives in and all over the neighborhood she lives in and that part of town. And I kind of avoid going over there now because I'm scared to run into her, which is ironic considering. And the lost episode, the vaulted episode I did, I really just, I definitely said, like, you know, I just would give anything to hear from her. I just want to talk to her. I just want to hear from her. I just want her to want to talk to me again. And this is going to turn into that vaulted episode again if I'm not careful. So, yes, the Frenchman definitely feels that we talk about April too much and we're just kind of caught in a loop here. But at the same time, like, it's my life, man. And this is what I'm struggling with. And this is just, I can't get over her. And I don't want to get over her, honestly, is the better way to put it. It's not that I can't, it's that I don't want to. Because and again, I don't want this to turn into the vaulted episode. So we don't want to say too much here, but I don't want to get over her. And I do want to hold out hope that there is hope. And that is what we'll say about that. And so to the Frenchman, I am very sorry that my silly little ADHD brain is caught up on this and stuck in a loop. But at the same time, at least I don't call you and talk to you about it every day like I want to. Be like, hey man, how's work going? Anyway, so I was thinking about April again. Do you think I should text her? So he can be very glad that we don't have to have that conversation. But, and you know what, guys, this is as good a time as any to take a little bit of a break. And I do not have to worry about time constraints on this one because I am home and have the ability to mix this down on my computer without trying to make sure I stay within the time limit. So I am very pleased as punch about that. And I will return shortly after the break. And just for the Frenchman, because he did say he likes it so much, this is just for you, buddy. And we're back. Genuinely cannot remember what the fuck I was talking about before the break. So, you know, I did think, though, as I was coming back in, like, there's something very magical about the podcast table and the podcast setup I have at my house. Because even when I try and do these, like, nothing ones, no script ones when I'm on the road, like, I find them so much easier to do when I'm at home and at the podcast table and in my chair with my set. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just something about having the setup that I set up and designed just for me to do this podcast, as opposed to like trying to make it work in a hotel room, doing it in the cuck chair with my spine snapping in half because I don't have a boom arm, so I have to like sit so awkwardly to use the mic on a mic stand. But I don't know. We bought another mic stand too. Yeah. What all did I buy this weekend for the podcast? Okay, so we got the MV7X, the new mic, the Rode PSA 1 Plus, the new boom arm, We got a Samsung mic stand, a smaller one than the one I already have. I'm looking at it right now. We got 2 more hard cases, one for the MV7X and one for the Rodecaster. I'm hoping the Rodecaster is going to fit in this other one that's coming. New headphones, NTH 100s, which I have yet. I totally forgot. I'm wearing them. They're so comfortable. And Tom Buck had said, I saw a review for them, and they said like the Alcantara ear cups that are on these things just somehow manage to stay cold all the time. And that is very much true. I am very much enjoying them. Very weighty. I like the way they feel on my head. They're very comfortable. So nice little step up from the Audio Technica ones. And now I have a second set of headphones for if I ever do have a guest, they can have cans and do their own monitoring. I don't know how everybody would feel about that, and new windscreen for the MV7X, an SM7B windscreen, and another XLR cable because the pink Rode cable I love it, so I got a blue one too, and that'll be coming next week out in the out of town job. So, yes. This is why I never want to leave the out-of-town job, because this gear addiction is wallet-threatening. So having all this extra money has been very nice to kind of build up the studio and the inventory of mics and equipment and stuff so that I can kind of take a break from buying all this shit once the out-of-town work is done. And you know what? I do want to buy, and the Frenchman's going to screech like a banshee when he hears this, but I do want to buy one more mic, the same as one of the ones I already have, so that when I do have guests, I don't have to fuck around with editing and trying to match levels and stuff, and just do it all on the same 2 mics and get the same sound and blah, blah, blah. That's a me problem. He won't understand that. But anyway. So I think we were talking about Scotty or the Frenchman. I can't remember. But the Frenchman's wife had, and you know what? I have kind of replayed some of our conversations in my head since last night and come up with better answers than I had last night when I was shit-faced. So, yeah, she was giving me a lot of shit for dating a 20-year-old because she is just convinced I need to date somebody my own age. And her and the Frenchman were like, you should date a flight attendant. And I was like, absolutely not. I am so codependent. I need somebody who's in the city all the time. I don't do well alone. As we've learned, but she was definitely giving me shit for dating a 20-year-old and saying like, you need to date somebody your own age. And while she's not wrong, I disagree and very much have a type in that like 23 to 26 year range, and I like them short and blah blah blah. But like, I don't know, Carl's accused me of this too, and like just wanting to be big rooter, right? And out here just trying to fuck. And at this point, Carl is right. Honestly, that is what I'm trying to do. So you can't even be mad at her for calling me out on my shit, because that's definitely what I'm doing. But the Frenchman's, we were talking about April and like how I need to probably break up with the new girl, and it's not fair to her because I can't get over April and still have all these feelings for her and blah, 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 blah. And the Frenchman's wife was just like, why? Like, why, man? And at the bar, in front of every dude I work with, probably, I didn't think it was the right setting for that conversation. And she probably knows a lot more of this now because I sent her the Vaulted Forbidden episode that I did. But I think all I said was like, it was the way she made me feel. And yeah, we did dig into this a lot more in the Vaulted episode, and I don't want to get too into it here because I just don't want this to turn into the Vaulted episode. I'm not as drunk as I was in that one, but I don't know. It really boils down to the way that April made me feel when it was good, and I can't shake the feeling that it's unfinished, and that was not the end as much as it feels like the end. And that was not all that we were supposed to be. It's supposed to be much more than that, because she was so important to me. I just believe that that it's unfinished and there's more to it, and that part of the story just hasn't happened yet. But it didn't feel and doesn't feel like a relationship that was just supposed to be that. It is more. It's more than that. And I don't know. I don't know how to explain it very well without like really getting into it. And yeah. So, and you know what? The other thing that I've thought of, and I mentioned this to the Frenchman once upon a time, but I'll say it here too for propriety. It's all well and games for the Frenchman's wife to tell me like, oh, you shouldn't date 20-year-olds. You need to date girls your own age, blah, blah, blah. Are you willing to put your money where your mouth is? Are you willing to subject one of your friends to me and my tomfoolery and my damage? Because if yes, offer one up. If you want me to get off these dating apps and meet a woman organically and blah, 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 invite her to the Frenchman and Co.'s Christmas party next weekend, and let's see if we vibe, because there is no way in hell that I'm going to go up to a strange woman in real life and introduce myself to her and make conversation. That is literally just a recipe for getting called a creep or something. But how badly do you want me to get off the dating apps? Are you willing to subject one of your poor friends to me? So, you know what? Anyone that is probably girlfriends with the Frenchman's wife is not somebody. Is somebody who I wouldn't be good enough for. I have to say, just because of where I'm at in my life and kind of what I'm doing, and I wouldn't want to. It's a fun joke to think like, you know, unleash me on one of your friends, but at the same time, like I would never want to do that to somebody that the Frenchman and his wife were friends with. Like, obviously, I'm not ready to be dating, and it's just whoever they set me up with is just gonna get hurt. So it's a fun joke, guys. I'm not serious here, but. Yeah, so it's a very weird thing to have real people I know in real life and have known for years and years and years come up to me and be like, I love the podcast. And even another friend of ours, his wife loves it. And the Frenchman was telling me about it. I was like, how the fuck does she know about it? And then I looked at him and I went, your wife. And he went, my wife. Ooh. So the podcast is definitely making its rounds, which is fine. The only person I don't want to hear it is the young buck, who was at the Christmas party. I managed to go the entire night without talking to him. He sat in a corner with his girlfriend and pouted all night, looking for attention, and then left because he's had some other plans. But like, what a fucking drama queen. Caillou Spaghetti and I had a great night with the Rizlord and the Frenchman, and yeah, it was good to see everybody and catch up with some old friends. Lipsy was there. Devastator Jr. showed up fashionably late at 10:30. Ooh. Ooh, we're having some chest pains here, guys. Yes. Live heart attack on the podcast. This is how I get downloads. So, 39 minutes in. That is the first part of the notes. And what else were we thinking of today? I was at the music. I was at Long and McQuaid today, obviously buying this boom arm, and I was thinking like, it's like just how invested I've gotten into this and how fast. Like yeah, it's typical of me to just go all in on some new hobby and be obsessed with it and whatever. But like at the same time, I feel a lot more free to kind of go hog wild like that and really dive deep into this kind of stuff. I feel a lot more free and able to do that since January and I split up. And because what brought this to mind is like a lot of people at the party last night haven't seen me in weeks or months or whatever. And this mustache I have is a new addition to the face. So it took a few people like a second to recognize me because everyone's just so used to seeing me with my big like fuck off beard. But and they got to talking like, oh, why the mustache? Like, did you do it for Movember or whatever? And I just said, no, I waited 10 years to grow this mustache because January fucking hated it so much. And that kind of made me realize like I feel a lot more like free to be able to try new things that I want to try or I've always wanted to try now that I'm not with her. Because like I wanted to start a podcast for years. For years and years and years, I wanted to start one. And every time I would bring it up to her, she would make fun of me and make some sexist comment about like, typical man just wants to start a podcast because, you know, all men think they have something so important to fucking say and blah, blah, blah. And made me feel like real stupid for wanting to do it and dumb and whatever, right? So I never did. And then also I couldn't afford to because I was too busy supporting her. So, you know, the height of fucking irony in that she would stand there and make fun of me for trying to have a new hobby and a new interest and then turn around with her fucking hand out asking for money. But, yeah, like, and the mustache, she hated the mustache and just gave me shit about it and made me feel like an asshole for wanting to grow one and do what I wanted to do with my body. And then would lecture me on how, all the government wants to do is tell women what they can and can't do with their bodies. And I was like, do you not see the fucking height of hypocrisy here coming out of your fucking mouth? But that's neither here nor there. So I just kind of realized today as I was walking into Long and McQuaid to spend another $200, which brings the running total for the weekend up to over $500 if we're keeping count. I realized as I was walking in, I was like, I feel like I have this freedom to really like explore these hobbies and stuff now and interests that I have because I don't have her like over my shoulder, like, oh, that's stupid. You're dumb. That's silly. What a waste. And just hypocrisy hell, right? Like I supported all her stupid fucking hobbies and causes and blah. Anyway. So it's kind of cool because now I'm kind of wondering like, okay, well, what's some stuff that I like wanted to do for years and years when we were together that I just felt like I couldn't because she made me feel stupid about it or whatever. And like, what the big three are like, well, I started drinking, I grew a mustache and I started a podcast, like typical guy breakup kind of shit. Right. But like, I don't know. It's this very like freeing feeling to know that like, if I have a new interest, I don't have to like run it by somebody or get approval or try and sneak around them and try and hide that I have this new interest. Like I just can go do it. And that's what I did with the podcast. I had the idea one night. I was like, because I saw, you know, the podcast really, like we all know why it started. It was for therapy and it was for me. But like what kind of pushed me over the edge to do it is I was thinking about it one night because I had listened to some podcast and it was talking about starting a podcast and how everyone should try it at least once, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of was just YouTubing around like, oh, you know how to start a podcast with an iPad or with whatever you got. And then found out that my iPad, like the iPad Pro, works with USB mics. So I just kind of did a little bit of Googling and that's how we ended up with the NT-USB 1 mini, the NT-USB mini. And then, yeah, here we are now, and I'm fucking thousands of dollars into this and have like a full studio, like almost a studio setup at this point. Because the next logical step in the podcast is to start doing sound treatment on the walls around here. Not that I really think I need it, because I've kind of learned my lesson about room noise and stuff from the days of the NT-USB mini, and I've kind of I have better mics now that really do a good job of like rejecting ambient room noise for the most part. The pod mic notwithstanding, that one definitely picked up a lot of room tone in the hotel, but it's very cool to just be able to like go whole hog into stuff like this. And a lot of that just ties into like being single, right? And like not really having any responsibilities and having a large amount of disposable income and no children and no pets, and I can just fucking go hog wild like this and go nuts. So, it's very nice. I don't know where I'm going with this. Lost my train of thought. But yeah. Oh, that was the other thing I was thinking about today in the shower. I was like, it's crazy how fast I went from like starter setup with a USB mic on a shitty boom arm to like a full, almost studio quality stuff, right? Like the Rode and also a lot of these mics and shit. And I realized I just kind of like speed ran the life cycle of like starting a podcast where you run into roadblocks and need to take that next step. I just did all that really fucking fast, right? Like, because I got the USB mic and I was doing it through the iPad and it was fine. And then that worked great, except for how much room tone that mic picked up. And then I thought my sister and, geez, sorry guys, gassy. My sister and Kayla had really expressed interest in coming on. So I started looking up like, oh, how do you do like two of these USB mics? And I found out like it's pretty difficult to have two USB mics running into the same computer. I don't know how it is on the iPad, but like the computer will just see them as the same device basically and assign them to the same, like it's a whole thing. So I was like, okay, well, what's the workaround for this? And the workaround is get an audio interface. So I did a little bit of research and then that's how we ended up with the Focusrite. And I thought, well, we're buying an audio interface. We need an XLR mic because the USB mic is USB only. So that's how we ended up with the Samson. And then we were watching reviews for like good starter mics, and then the Audio Technica 2100X came up, and so that's how we ended up with the Audio Technica 2100X. And then I wanted an upgrade from that because while I thought it sounded fine, I just wanted something a little bit better. So I started looking at all the podcasts that I do listen to, and like Ninjas Are Butterflies and We Mean Well, and there's a few other ones that use the pod mic. So I thought, okay, well, we'll get the pod mic. And then, obviously, the Rodecaster came about because the Focusrite, I was really running into gain headroom issues where I was, especially with the pod mic, I was really capped out on gain for what that interface could provide. And I thought, okay, well, do we get the next generation of Focusrite, or do we really just go all in and get like the creme de la creme, cream of the crop kind of shit that we won't ever have to upgrade until the fucking Rodecaster 3 comes out? So that's how we ended up with the Rodecaster Duo. And then watching, looking up reviews for the Rodecaster led me to Tom Buck's channel, where I saw all these reviews he has for the Lewitt LCT 240 Pro. And I thought, well, you know, I don't have a condenser mic yet. I have a lot of dynamic mics. So, and I found it for a good deal on Black Friday. So I thought, well, we'll get that. And that led to, okay, well, we need better XLR cables because these cheap ones I have are picking up a ton of signal noise from my phone when I just have it anywhere near the mixer, the interface. And like, it's just this iterative. And now all of a sudden it's 2 months later and I'm like fucking a couple $1,000s into this, and it started spending $150 on a USB mic. So like $20 on a boom arm. So it's just kind of funny how I ran into all these like natural roadblocks that you would run into starting a podcast, and I just kind of speed ran them. Where it's like, okay, well, I need guests, so we have an audio interface. And then it's like, okay, well, I want better mics, so this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, I've hit the limit of what the interface can do. I need to upgrade. And do we take a small iterative upgrade and get the Vocaster 2 or whatever, or do we really go all in and get the Rodecaster Duo? And obviously we got the Rodecaster Duo. I'm looking at her. She's gorgeous still. I love this thing so much. It's just so like fun to look at and play with. And I use it so artistically. Like I figured out how to route my sound from my iPad into the Rodecaster out through the headphones. So when I'm at the hotel, I'll turn everything on and then I'll just watch YouTube videos and use the Rodecaster to control the volume. And I'm like, this was worth $700. Basically a fucking $700 headphone amp if I don't feel like recording. So, but yeah, like, you know, we see the changes in me, and that's the empirical we, like me. I see the changes in me. And like, I'm not alone in seeing them. Obviously, a lot of people tell me, they're like, you seem really different in the last couple of months. And I'm like, well, I am and I aren't. I got very destroyed in a relationship that I'm still picking the pieces up from. But I've just found this whole new sense of self and self-confidence, and just kind of rediscovering who I am. Like, and I was listening to episode 10 today, and I was talking about that a little bit, about how the Frenchman had said, like you're reinventing yourself and you're rediscovering yourself. So like, give yourself a little bit of grace. And I really, really am, aren't I? Like, really kind of figuring out who I am by myself. And while I have enjoyed this journey and like it's still ongoing, right? Like I still don't fully know myself. I very much wish I could have done it without leaving this like trail of destruction behind me that I have in the form of all these exes and partners and stuff. So because there was the few who came between January and April, and then that was me not knowing how to date, especially with one of them. And then there's everyone who came after April, and everyone who came after April is a choice I've made to basically lie and say that I'm fine, and then these women get hurt, and that's on me because I do know better, and I'm choosing to ignore that because at this point I don't think anybody's fooled, and I'm not fooling myself, right? Like, we're not over April. That is the long and short of it. And as much as it will make no sense to the Frenchman and the Frenchman's wife and anybody else who knows me, I am not over her, and I still have feelings for her, and I want her back. And I definitely shouldn't be dating with that attitude. And I was thinking today, not only is it not fair to the women that I date, it's not fair to April to be saying these things when I'm actively still dating. And I've said this on another episode and just didn't learn my lesson. So, yeah, that's all we'll really say about that, because I don't think April listens anymore, because I have yet to receive an email from her being like, you need to shut the fuck up. And I half expect it most days, which is very much why I was like hesitant to post the Vaulted episode, which will not be getting posted. As much as it's like a good insight into where my head's at about April, it's also like very raw and very personal and very emotional. And I don't know, I do want to post it, but I'm worried about what April would think of it. So that one just kind of stays in the vault for now. And maybe, who knows, I'll change my mind tomorrow and post it tomorrow and go, fuck it, I changed my mind. April's going to think I'm crazy regardless. Here y'all go. Listen to me fucking whine and cry. So, I don't know, guys. And then, yeah. Oh, jeez. Watch this plane just fucking overshoot the runway and smash into a mountain, Frenchman? But, yes, that is probably going to bring us to the close of this episode. Not a bad showing, I have to say. And I will endeavor to do more. Like, I miss the daily ones, right? But it's just kind of like I ran out of shit to talk about. Like, my life is not that interesting. And that was the other thing, is like the Frenchman was like, well, it feels like season 5 of The Walking Dead. And I'm like, well, sorry, buddy. My life's not that interesting. Like, not a lot happens. And especially like being out of town, there's not a lot of drama. I just go to work and then I get drunk. So it's kind of hard to find content to talk about, but very sorry that my life is boring to you. Go live your own, I guess, if you're unhappy with the state of mind. But yes, I will really endeavor to do more of these, if not for anybody but me, like, because I miss doing them daily. That was a lot of fun. And I don't know that I have daily in me anymore, but I would still like to be doing like 3 or 4 a week. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. Did you know the podcast has an email? So any and all questions, concerns, comments, or criticisms can all be sent over to dumbereveryday42@gmail.com. Come straight to my phone, so I will either get back to you or we'll talk about it on the show, and I look forward to hearing from you. The podcast is on YouTube, youtube.com/@Rackham42. It's the same as the audio version, really. There's no video portion to it yet. I'm still investigating that right now, but it is on YouTube if you want to, and YouTube Music if that's your preferred listening platform, and you want to let the algorithm learn some things about you and me and recommend it to some people. And now that we're on quite a few platforms, breathing is hard, guys. If you wouldn't mind rating the podcast on your respective listening platform, I'm not going to fight you for 5 stars. Give it what you feel it deserves, but apparently this helps. Don't ask me why. I don't know. We're not big enough yet, but yes, it does. It is a help, I guess, to have ratings on all these stores. So if you wouldn't mind, if you have the time, if you're so inclined, I don't care one way or the other. But other than that, I will catch you mob in the next episode. All y'all be good and hurry.